Yeah, so my name is Andrew. Some people call me Cooks nowadays. And
Evil
I work.
cooks.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you want to go back 10 years of my life, yeah. um, so I am a contributor to a project called BTCPay Server. I've been working on it for almost a year now. A bit less, I would say, maybe like 9 to 10 months. Um, I've been into, I guess, crypto for quite a while, but I never really got into the whole development side of stuff for maybe for up to like a year or two ago. Um, yeah, um, I think I got into crypto around the Mount Gox era, so it was a very interesting period of time. I was really into the whole Dogecoin crazy stuff back then as well. The community was pretty funny.
Mm.
Yeah, but I didn't understand anything about crypto at that point. Everything felt very rough, kind of like a joke. So I didn't really get into it until I actually read up on the theory and concepts a few years back, and then yeah, I went in it kind of really deep.
In the year 2017, around that time in Malta, many people were working to make Malta a blockchain island.
Yeah,
And I think you have seen all of that, but at the time you weren't living in Malta. How did you see it from an outside
well, I
perspective?
mean,
Someone
well,
who is really into involved in the space.
well, actually, I was kind of hyped about it because I was hoping that they would kind of make they would go in a different direction instead of the Chinese kind of level of kind of constriction. So instead, in the beginning, I was like quite hyped about it. So I hoped that people would actually open up a business in Malta because the banks would finally be kind of forced to accept companies to open up, like crypto and Bitcoin companies to open up there. But instead, as soon as the regulations and the draft started coming up, it just went all the complete opposite direction about it. Like now you need a shitload of money to actually open up a business. Banks probably won't even accept you, even if you have a giant company. And the whole VSA agent and crazy shit that the government came up with is completely, unfeasible for the long term. So now I just tell people to open up a business elsewhere or don't open up a company at all and just work in a more, um, open source kind of license level kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
let's talk about that. What was your journey into cryptocurrency and blockchain? Maybe from the very beginning, like what was the first thing you mentioned the Mt. Gox era?
Yeah.
So that's probably quite interesting to look back.
I'm not even sure how I heard about Bitcoin. I think some of my friends were talking about it. I remember there was a buttload of articles at that point in time about Silk Road and people mentioning it everywhere. And it's on, like this crazy internet money that people are using to buy drugs and, human trafficking in the deep web. Because I remember all those articles popping up. I'm like, okay, pretty weird. But I don't even remember how I got into crypto that much. I think I just checked out an article at some point and I'm like, okay, cool. Funny, just weird money. And I ended up on Reddit for a while and hanging out on the Bitcoin and the Dogecoin subreddits for a while, and it got pretty crazy in there. All of a sudden, I was just hanging out mostly on the Dogecoin stuff, but I think it was pretty cool until, of course, some crazy hacker people came in, started stealing coins from everybody, and the community kind of got very quiet really fast. And at some point, I kind of phased it all out and said, okay, this stuff is very rough and way too early at least.
But what's interesting is also that like the early adoption was really just some internet nerds, right? As you said, Dogecoin is a project that doesn't really have at all any business background or any use case. It's really just, okay, we have this meme with this dog which we love sharing. Let's tokenize it, right? And there you can see that in the beginning, really the very, very first movers were people from the internet. It's an internet phenomenon.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, the whole concept of it was just a whole joke, right? It's just a dog on a coin, and people are just making memes out of it.
But then, did you read into Bitcoin? Because I mean, Bitcoin is really, really heavy with purpose and technology and the whole history of like the e-gold and technocrat and all this crypto anarchy stuff. Were you reading into that at that time then?
At that time, no, not really, because I wasn't very interested in the whole security kind of privacy stuff. I saw money. I didn't really care about my privacy at that point in time too much. So I said, okay, it's pretty cool stuff, but I didn't read into it. I didn't know the tech that much. I really got into the tech maybe 2 years ago, something around that time. So that's when I actually started researching it and working on it and reading protocol stuff and actually getting into it like properly. So.
Were you working on it because you wanted to make money or find a job or thought it's a good technology, or were you then starting to work on it because you read into it and found it very interesting?
A bit of both. Back then, I researched it mostly in my free time. Just messed around with it. Playing around with the code felt nice to me. I did just do it as a hobby for most of the time. At least back then. Now I do it all the time, but. Back then it was just just try to see what I can code with it, see what I can do. I mean, it's marketed as a programmable money, right? So, and I'm a programmer, and so I just wanted to actually get into it more and play with it because it's pretty cool stuff. And eventually, like you end up kind of getting into it so deep that you just get fascinated by it, and you just obsess and keep on going and going. Yeah.
What is the disruptive potential of Bitcoin in your words?
Disruptive, I think it's a revolution. If you actually keep looking at it for the next 20 to 50 years, it will probably destroy a whole bunch of businesses, but it'll create way more than that. In my opinion, it's gonna change governments' ways of manipulation and thinking. So, yeah. It's hard to explain it because I think we haven't even touched the base of what it can do yet.
Maybe from a personal experience, sending and receiving Bitcoin right now and living on Bitcoin right now, that's already quite, I think, interesting for people to see that it's actually possible. Are you living on Bitcoin, or do you use it in your daily life a lot? And like maybe you can explain a little bit how that works. Like what's the difference compared to traditional system?
So right now I live in Denmark. So Denmark is mostly a cashless society. Everybody, I highly doubt people actually hold cash at home because I think I've only went to an ATM here once or twice since I've been here for the past few years. They use this app called Mobile Pay here, which is pretty much an app created by a bank. At least it was created by a bank, and then I think somebody else bought it. But basically, it allows people to do money transfers between each other. It's not peer-to-peer; it's still centralized, but there's no fees or anything. So day-to-day life here is kind of, you don't really use crypto that much because people don't seem to have that much enthusiasm about it. But online, when purchasing tickets or conferences or random stuff that you find online, I use crypto every now and then. Like for example, the Honey Badger ticket, I bought that with Bitcoin. I use a lot of the Lightning Network. At least if I find a store on it, I'll probably pitch in some Satoshis on that or whatever. Using it could be a bit geeky. I think using Bitcoin as a non-geek is a bit hard right now. You'll find wallets that look nice, and like the Eclair wallet or Spark or Zap and all those for Lightning, those are pretty cool wallets, but it's still very geeky, like opening channels and looking at this big giant dashboard on your screen with all sorts of data is kind of scary to people. Bitcoin wallet itself, so not Lightning, I think it's gone quite far. People still get a bit confused because most wallets try to represent it as if it was, like a normal fiat kind of wallet system, which is a bit hard when you can do so many different things with it. So people see it and say, okay, I want to do exactly what that centralized bank system does, but it really just hides all the complexity behind it, and it also hides all the nice features that you can do. And it's kind of a shame to me, but I think it's something that has to happen over the next few years to really give out the nice push.
What is your opinion? There's this idea that if new technologies appear, they have to be better than the ones before. So they really have to be nicer, cheaper. Otherwise, people don't adopt it. So if it's hard to use, then they won't adopt it. So that's where Apple came in, and they made computers for creative people who want technology to be very user friendly and beautiful. And that was when it really took off, and everybody got a PC. And now Bitcoin, because it is so anti-business basically, or like it's so open source at the moment, it is not so attractive to build upon it, because it doesn't seem in the first place as a good layer to build up a business. Yeah, because there are no fees. There aren't real business applications where you can make a lot of money, simply because you will always be outcompeted potentially by a peer-to-peer substitute. Whatever marketplace idea you have, whatever solution you have, like Bitcoin in its essence, it can always disrupt it with enabling people to trade directly, right? So it's not really interesting for big business to say like, yeah, Bitcoin is awesome, let's do it, because it will be much harder to make money with it. Despite, of course, on the long term, maybe you can see way more potential coming once it's established. But do you think, coming back to what you said, that it's geeky, it's nerdy, it's difficult, people are really afraid for many of these difficulties, for example, losing their coins? Not just that it's hard to use, but like there are actual dangers.
Yeah.
And also considering how banking was established, like people, they were scared to get robbed with their gold at home, so they gave it to a specialized company, the bank, to take care of it, and they were specialized in security, so it made a lot of sense. And in this other interview yesterday, Chris Gregg also asked Leonard from Ganado, like, what does he think, that would people prefer to control their private keys? Yeah, of course, many people prefer controlling the private keys, but too many people, the majority of people, they don't want this responsibility, because they're so used to this easy, convenient, tailored, we solve all your problems behavior of, you go to the bank, if you lose your passport, no problem, you go there, you verify, you authenticate, you get a new PIN, you get a new a credit card, whatever, and you never lose. I mean, okay, sometimes you have a lot of problems with banks, but like if you're a normal customer and you get hacked or your credit card gets hacked, you usually get the 500 euros or what, you get it back, because they're insured, they print new money, whatever. And so that's the big problem here. I think that right now it's really not really technology that will be adopted, simply because people are scared to lose their private key and all their funds, and it requires a lot of time. So it's not yet there that it can be really adopted by itself. However, if the need is high enough, people will do it. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's important to kind of be responsible with your keys, right? When you create your seed, I mean, you have to store that really safely somewhere else. Obviously, if somebody gets your 12-word key, or I forgot how long it is, I think up to 24 words. If you lose that, you're screwed, basically. If your computer dies and all your money is on there, well, then you're screwed. So it puts a bigger responsibility on yourself as an individual to save your money. But it also helps you so that you don't end up in a situation where your bank takes all your money because it goes bankrupt because there's some shady shit over the years. So, I mean, it's a give or take kind of. You have to kind of weigh your responsibilities here. For me, I prefer kind of holding these keys. I don't want to deal with potential problem with a bank in 20 years. I mean, I hold some money in a bank. Obviously, I have some savings in there, but not enough to worry about the bank dying, basically. Eventually, over the years, we'll probably come up with better ways to safeguard your savings in Bitcoin, so that you don't have to worry about all these issues. As an end user, you'll probably find a good solution within the next 10 years of how to do it. For example, it's only been a few years since they well, not a few years, but if you use hardware wallets, you can already kind of safeguard your money in an easier way than just putting your seed somewhere and hoping nobody finds it and hacks it. Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's a fair compromise.
Yeah, it will probably, as you said, it will just require some more design thinking, and making it easier. Now, that brings us to the actual topic, BTCPay Server, which does exactly that, right? Like making it as easy and convenient as possible, but at the same time, following the principles of control, transparency, don't trust, verify. Maybe before that, could you explain a little bit what kind of projects you did before BTCPay Server, how they turned out, and what made you finally decide, okay, I'm gonna dedicate my life to that, because that's what I think is the most useful, where it can like help the most.
Yeah, sure. So before BTCPay Server, I was actually trying to start a company, mostly specifically working with cryptocurrencies, kind of setting up an exchange, like a cryptocurrency exchange. Didn't work out too well, but in the process of that, I discovered BTCPay Server. I actually started looking into it quite a while ago. Basically started kind of modifying it, trying to use it for the exchange, basically for deposits and withdrawals and all that stuff. And eventually I just ended up finding myself just coding more and more on BTCPay Server and less on my own projects. And eventually I said, what am I doing? I don't even care about other cryptocurrencies as much as the Bitcoin itself anyway. So yeah, I ended up on it without even intentionally wanting to. And so yeah.
Why do you care only about one and not about the others? Can you go a bit in detail here, like the exact what are like the three main motivations or reasons for that?
Yeah, well, you mean about Bitcoin over shitcoins, or?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, sure. Basically, I mean, you have all these coins are basically just doing the exact same thing as Bitcoin does, but with less security, and then a smaller community and a more niche kind of community. And I mean, that's good for them. They can do whatever they want. But for me, the only reason to use Bitcoin, the only reason to use a system like Bitcoin is because it's so secure and it has been running around for over 10 years at this point. So if you have a new coin that's forked off from the Bitcoin code base and it does exactly the same thing as Bitcoin, then it says it does smaller block time and all that stuff, it still doesn't matter because it's not as secure at all. So it's almost useless to me. I prefer kind of looking at projects like Elements and Liquid Network, which run as a side chain to Bitcoin, so they are secure with Bitcoin in general anyway. But yeah, I don't want to touch on it too much because people seem to enjoy fighting over this stuff.
Give us a little bit more detail about BTCPay Server. What's the idea behind? How long does it take to set up? What are the core features and benefits?
Well, actually, you can set up. So BTCPay Server is a Bitcoin payment processor. It's self-hosted and free and open source. You don't need that much technical experience to set it up. Out of the box, it comes with Lightning Network support and Bitcoin support, and it does not need any private keys to function. So it can all the funds go from the end user to the merchants with no intermediary in the middle, which is how Bitcoin is supposed to work. You can deploy it. We have a few quick installers available right now. One of them is for a special a service provider called LunaNode. They have an installer there that you just go on it, you give it your domain name and with some specific configuration settings that you want to do, and it will deploy within 10 to 20 minutes, I would guess. So it doesn't take that much to set up. Obviously, it takes a bit of geekiness sometimes to actually get into it because you have to set up stuff regarding Bitcoin as well, and you have to create a store, then you have to set it up with your WordPress website or your custom website, whatever. But it's not too hard if you're technical person.
Now, if you compare that with services, business services, I don't know, CoinGate, for example, which is one of the largest, or BitPay, or I think Coin Payments also is one of the big ones. What is the main difference of like these solutions that exist, where you just have to make an account and then you get a couple of plugins, or yeah, e-commerce tools? What is the main difference?
Well, the main difference is that it's BTCPay Server is a non-custodial service. So all the funds, so all these other services, most of all the funds that come from a customer have to go to CoinGate directly, and then CoinGate has to give them to you as an end user, as a merchant. So basically, all the funds are actually being funneled through another intermediary, and in the process of that, they're charging you money, and yes, they have to go through their servers. You as a merchant have to be accepted by them. You might actually get blocked or banned or all sorts of things that we've seen happen a lot of times now. So that's the biggest difference, and it's honestly the biggest feature of BTCPay.
Do you think though that there could also be a way, like once the financial world maybe is less or like Bitcoin, let's say, grows up and gets rid of these childhood diseases, with all these instances of starting from empty gox and all these hacks and people running away with the money, or fraudulent business, if that maybe gets better throughout time because there's more users, there are more established business, the black sheeps get sorted out, then what could happen is that there are just very integer and honest businesses in the end. So for example, let's take CoinGate as an example. The benefit here is that I don't have to do anything as a merchant. I wanna save time, most importantly, right? I wanna save time, and therefore I'm happy to pay a fee for that service if they take care of everything. And I maybe even have some sort of guarantees and a service, hotline and business service, for example. Whereas with BTCPay Server, I need to invest a lot of time. Then maybe something goes wrong. Then I have to hire a developer or something. Do you think the success of BTCPay Server will be given? Even though it's harder basically in the beginning.
Well, I think BTCPay Server has already been a big success so far. I mean, there's thousands of merchants using it already now. We rarely get any issues with people losing their money because we don't kind of have any private keys of any user. They go directly to their wallet, cold storage wallet actually, without us having to interfere with that, or can even interfere with that. So
it's great because it's basically it's just technology built the right way, right? Like right now we have all these problems with centralized data. If it's Facebook, if it's any social media platform, almost every week there are hacks and leaks, and everybody knows that it's really, really bad what's going on, and yet nobody kind of seems to act. But here that's the solution, right? Like you don't need an intermediary, you don't need the centralized databases or businesses which are really prone to attacks and of course really attractive for hackers to steal a lot of information and funds, and it works. So, but then what would happen basically is, I mean, with Bitcoin, with hyper Bitcoinization, I believe we will have a better commercial world, more integrity. More moral, let's say. So I think with Bitcoin, kind of in some way or another, will reduce scams generally. Therefore, there would be less need for these peer-to-peer or really secure services, because you can simply trust these businesses if they're built the right way, if they're good. But then there would always be that element that you can verify, that you don't need to trust, that guarantees that integrity for the long term. Because whenever a business fucks up, you can always, go native and do it yourself and use BTCPay Server or the whole the open source solution with direct exchange onto cold storage and like mitigating or actually almost eliminating risk of attacks, risk of fraudulent business activities, right?
Yeah. So basically, with BTCPay Server, it's usually the user ends up at our doorstep basically by trial and error. They try out Coinbase, they get rejected there, and then they go to BitPay, then they get screwed over by their politics. Then they come over to another provider, they charge them a lot of fees, all sorts of drama in every direction they go. And then they come to us and they set up their own server and they make their own rules, and they don't get charged at all any money, and they just control their own money, and they don't get screwed over by anybody because they control everything that happens on their own server. So it's honestly the right way and how it should be done. But it's just, you have to let people to go through the entire process of failure and sadness and disappointment to actually get to BTCPay Server, but it works. We don't really try to. Basically, we don't try to go into the direction of trying to explain why to use Bitcoin or how to use Bitcoin. Basically, we tell them, we show people the right way to do it. It's the easy. It's not because it's the BTCPay isn't the easiest, but it's obviously the I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of.
No, I mean, I think it's
the obvious choice in the end.
Yeah, it's the engineer's choice. It's like when you understand that the problem is whatever service you use, you will always have downsides. Whether it's high fees, whether it's the business decides differently and changes everything, whether or the business gets bought or they go public and the shareholders want more money. Or they simply get hacked because it's very attractive if there is a custodial service that there's a lot of hacks. And the alternative is simple, right? Like decentralize as much as you can. There's a lower chance to get hacked if users control their own keys, because like nobody hacks for just a couple thousand. And that's it, right? It's just engineers thinking about the architecture. And then instead of a CEO saying, we need to make money, it's just, look, here, have it. It's free. It's from one person to the other person with no intermediary, and it works. As long, of course, you also need to have some sort of maintenance and upkeep. But the right way, as you say, is really how can we adopt Bitcoin in a way that is that's the most focused, like what Jeff Bezos basically says, right? Like user-centered. What is user-centered based on Bitcoin? It's not it's non-custodial always, because that's the main problem with the banks. Is if you have control over money supply, over monetary management, or over funds, you either get hacked or corrupted, or you lose, or your money gets debased, right? And there is unfortunately, there is no way to fight, or there is no other solution. I mean, of course, you could say, maybe this business now in 2019, finally we have a good person and you will never fuck it up. It's unlikely, right? So it's better to trust the technology and follow the rules of technology.
Yeah, completely. It's always going to be. That's why you have to go for a trustless system, right? That's why Bitcoin exists at this point, because people have tried to do something similar to Bitcoin over the years in the past, and the point of failure was always that it was centralized. So it's the way forward, in my opinion. So
I guess though that again, what I was saying is, like, Bitcoin is this layer that will establish better behavior amongst all stakeholders of societies, governments, banks, players in the market, because the rules are set in an ethical way. Now,
in my opinion, they don't need to behave in a specific way. Bitcoin will force them to behave in a specific way. Once you take away the money of governments, you take away you defund governments from funding military operations with tax money that you gave them for, you wanted them to fix the roads, and said they send the whole army to Iraq or something. As soon as you take away that money from them, they stop being bullies, right? So I think you'll see a big shift as soon as the Bitcoin economy actually builds up over the next few decades.
Yep. Now, what my point was, it's still what we discuss here is still, I think, a call to action for entrepreneurs, to work on the solution. Because I think, as you said, it is still difficult. Like, and if you want to scale that up, many people need help. They don't have the time. They will make mistakes with BTCPay Server. So that is a good business model, as long as it's not touching the base layer, as long as it's not trying to circumvent the base layer of Bitcoin. Then I think there's a lot of value if somebody helps businesses to set up BTCPay Server, or also, as you do, develop it and maybe donate it, or potentially also as a paid service, maybe a fork of BTCPay Server as a paid service, as long as it's following these basic rules. Do you think that's needed, that people join, businesses join? Similar, like, I mean, like, what about CoinGate? Maybe you could advise. Let's say you would have a meeting with the CEO of CoinGate, or what was the other one I mentioned? I mean, BitPay obviously is the best one, right? Like, that's actually also, maybe you can mention that story quickly. The BTCPay Server was born after BitPay. So, and maybe you can because I love this discussion, or it's like a really interesting discussion. How to if there is a way between the really completely open source, no business at all, basically, because it's all free, and okay, people want help, people love to pay for good products, as long as they don't fuck up, and they need it actually, because that guarantees good quality of service if there's a business, if there's a sustainable business behind.
Yeah, so BTCPay, so let's start out with the story. Basically, BTCPay Server was born out of anger at this point. Back in, was it 2017, I think, I think around then, when back then there was the SegWit2x drama happening, and BitPay, which was, I think, was the biggest payment processor for crypto at that point in time, they started telling all their users that, basically misinforming them, telling them that they were going to do an update and that there was nothing to worry about. But in fact, they were pushing everybody to a contentious fork called SegWit2x, where they try to basically get a bunch of people, corporate people, to put the block size up, and people didn't really agree with that at all. And then the creator of BTCPay was, which is Nicholas Dorier. He created it out of anger. Basically, he just posted a Twitter post to BitPay saying, "I'm going to make you obsolete," and he started a project, and everything just really kickstarted from there. So it's pretty much the power of open source software that's really shining in this situation.
So here's the thing. So BitPay, if I'm a merchant, I like the trust. I like that there's a company. I like that they have that I pay for it, and I get customer service. And if I have a bug, it's their responsibility. On the other hand, I want my funds secure. I maybe don't want to pay fees, but I may be scared doing it myself. And here, that's the question that I asked. Like, how could it be balanced? If Nicholas would be able to give advice to the BTCPay Server, BitPay management, what could they do in order to improve in a better way? except for giving up.
I mean, as long as they respect their users and be transparent with them, I think there wouldn't have been any drama with BitPay at all. I mean, if they actually allowed people to choose between, accepting money on the Bitcoin network or the SegWit2x fork that they were gonna be pushing, which actually got canceled. So within a few weeks of that, it wouldn't have made so much controversy around it, as long as they allowed people to choose what they wanted to do. But they didn't. They actually played it down and said, we're just doing an update soon. You'll be using SegWit2x, and they're like, no big deal, kind of thing. But it was a huge deal. Basically, if the fork actually happened, people ended up on that chain, and then it would have, broken down, and just the network. They actually had quite a lot of bugs in their software, from what I remember, and the network would have died out if they actually ended up on SegWit2x. So it would have been quite a crazy and bad experience for all their merchants, because I imagine that the merchants of BitPay are actually there's some very big customers there that don't really care that much about Bitcoin, but they accept it because it's easy. And if all of a sudden they ended up with all this drama and customer support tickets popping up like crazy because stuff wasn't working, it would have been a horrible experience.
So it's really just very dishonest management, and in fact dangerous, because you play with with people's ability, like you destroy your own product in the end, right? And what I like here, I think, to wrap it up, Bitcoin is this code-driven corrective, or it's almost like a little bit like democratic. I mean, not that you vote, but it's like if your business sucks, I'm gonna code it open source, okay, and then everybody can have it, and then you will see what people will adopt, and that's the right way to do so. Now let's. Malta is a small island in the Mediterranean, which is not just with the highest density of population. So nowhere in Europe are people living closer together because it's small. On top of that, it's the fastest growing GDP in Europe, and third, it is also the only nation in Europe where almost everyone has heard of blockchain and Bitcoin. Because news spread, and on an island, of course, everybody knows each other, and news spread fast. Seems like a good place to bring BTCPay Server into the market. Now, you being of Maltese roots, how about we offer a free consultation for a merchant? We announce it within this podcast, so everyone who comments as a merchant below this video will get a free consultation with Andrew, how to set up BTCPay Server, and some question answer. Would that something you would like to agree on?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Cool. And then the next step will be that we do this every Friday. Anything else you'd like to mention? I loved your little pinches of Bitcoin maximalism and bank hate. What are you working on at the moment? Maybe what's the roadmap for the future? Maybe where can people follow you, and what's the website of BTCPay Server, and like what's the process, onboarding and stuff? Maybe a little bit there.
Yeah, sure. So our website is btcpayserver.org. We have a community chat that's always running, basically, at chat.btcpayserver.org. We've got a lot of people there that will help with any questions that you have. If you want to try it out, we've got demos there. We've got donation buttons to try it out, and all sorts of things. We have plugins to integrate it with all sorts of websites that you have, like WordPress, Drupal, Magento, PrestaShop, whatever. The stuff that I'm working on right now is, let me see, I have maybe 3 or 4 things running at the same time right now, but I'm working on adding Eclair as an option for Lightning. That would mean that we'll have the trifecta and Lightning implementations on BTCPay supported. Also working on some UX improvements here and there. Also adding in a new way to do backups and some sort of things like that. So, but we don't have a hard roadmap on anything. We kind of work on what's kind of at the moment kind of feels urgent. So yeah.
Sounds awesome, and I guess there's still a way to go, and it will be just ever better every month, basically, and more people will join and adopt it, and then provide feedback, and so it gets better and better. Okay, then I sum it up and give a last shout out to everyone watching. If you are a merchant interested in Bitcoin, and if you had made maybe bad, I know that here at the Hole in the Wall bar, one of the oldest bars in Malta, they accepted Bitcoin with BitPay, and it fucked it up because there wasn't an update done, and then like some transactions were showed an error. So that's your call. If you're a merchant in Malta, into Bitcoin and you still kind of print out QR codes on a piece of paper on your desk, then comment here and you will be chosen eventually, if you win, to receive a free consultation with Andrew, how to set up a BTCPay server either on your website or in a store. And therefore you would be completely ready. Probably we'll do it open source anyway. So I mean, the consulting, right? Like we can also share it. Yeah, comment please, and hopefully you win. And then Andrew, yeah, that's it. When are you back? And when are you visiting your family in Malta next time?
I should be there in June. So
in
for
June?
a few months. Yeah.
All right.
So.
Cool. Then we'll make a BTCPay Server meetup.
Yes, sure. Sounds good.
Great. Then I thank you for joining, and thank everyone for watching. Buy Bitcoin, be free, no financial advice, and see you in the next video.
Bye.